This is LP Giobbi.
Listen up, children.
You are listening to Femme House Radio.
I said listen up, children.
On Diplo's Revolution, Sirius XM.
A wonderful night is made as much by the dancers as the music. Guided as much by the spirit of joy in the room as by the hand which reaches for the next record. Each of us has a role in tonight's experience. We all play in the band.
This is LP Giobbi, and I founded Femme House, a 501c3 foundation and educational platform that teaches the technical areas of music making for women, non-binary, trans, and other marginalized gender identities. Every week, I will be interviewing and spotlighting women in music while bringing you the best dance tunes from around the world.
We are currently in Allyship Month on Femme House Radio, where we highlight allies in the music community who are using their privilege to shine light on those that have not historically had as many opportunities. And Alberto Chapa definitely fits this description. Alberto is a producer, Ableton certified trainer, and educator with a passion for helping artists, schools, and nonprofits turn their ideas into reality. His company, Musical Guest, offers live performance solutions for independent and major label tours, creates educational content, and offers production coaching and workshops for artists. In May 2020, he started Virtual Guest, a virtual event production company to help organizations like Planned Parenthood stay connected with their communities during the quarantine. Alberto became an Ableton certified trainer in 2017. In 2020, he was nominated for his work with Youth and Education for Austin's Under 40 Awards. Alberto has lectured and contributed to academic programming for South by Southwest, Ableton Loop, USC Thornton School of Music, UT, and literally the list goes on for an entire page. Alberto, you have one of the most impressive bios I have ever read. Why do you do all the volunteer educational work you do? What is your why?
That's such a good question. It's taken me a long time to figure out my why, and I've come to the conclusion that it's because I didn't have a lot of these opportunities myself, and I was starving for them. And I, for whatever reason or another, never had anybody support that vision or see that potential in me and kind of take me under their wing or show me how that's done. And that caused a lot of frustration, and it led me to self-teach myself to do a lot of the things I do now. And what I always say that I try to do is give people a shortcut. Instead of taking the 15 years that it took me to learn what it took me to learn what I know, I just like to make it easy for them and make it available. So sometimes it's through volunteering, sometimes it's through community events. But that's definitely the why, is being the opportunity that the young version of myself didn't have.
Snaps that. Femme House could not agree more. How did you find your way to working for Ableton?
That's been a really interesting journey. I have had every single job you can imagine in trying to find my place in the music world. Like the list goes on and on. And at one point, I started running into really inspirational people online, like Laura Escudé, who's an Ableton certified trainer, and Brian Funk. And these are people that started almost putting out a beacon that I caught onto and saw them as an opportunity to reinvent myself in a way that I hadn't really even imagined possible. And I'm talking about the Ableton certification, and what that does is it combines people's backgrounds in education and music production and community building, things that don't ever really come into play in a single role. I always felt like every job I had, I was using 2/3 of my personality. I was either the entrepreneur and the musician, or the musician and the educator, but never all three. And I think that's why I fixated on the Ableton certification. I saw an opportunity to really fully be myself and reach my potential. So I applied and got declined very respectfully. So I made it a point to do some research and get involved with the community and just take the initiative. And when another opportunity came up in 2017, I felt I was a little bit better prepared for it. And the rest is history. Just one thing led to another. After 4 years of being a certified trainer, Ableton invited me to join their team. And I'm currently working as a brand manager for Ableton in 7 states.
That is, what a cool, hero's journey story. I absolutely love that. And for those that do not know, Ableton is the DAW system that you make electronic music in. It's like a Pro Tools or a Logic. It happens to be the one that I also work in, and the one that supports Femme House. We teach in Ableton. So it's such an honor to have you on the show. With what do you do in your work as an Ableton certified trainer? So you are an Ableton certified trainer. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I got certified in 2017 in Mexico City, and we were one of the last
Amazing.
batches before quarantine stopped the process. Hopefully, we'll resume soon. But yeah,
So
as a
what does that
certified
process
trainer,
entail? Do you have to like go? You have to go to somewhere and like do what, pass some tests or something?
yeah, it's 3 steps. You have to be on top of it and like know when they announce it. So you have to be like keeping an eye on the website. Then you have to go through an application process with a 20-minute video, a letter of intent, and a resume. And then if they select that, then there's a phone interview or a Zoom interview where you kind of get put to the test. And then if you pass that, you're invited to the 3-day event where you're presenting for 3 days. And they're not making it super easy. It's still Ableton, so they're very thoughtful. But
Yeah.
it's like you're being put to the test, like all of your knowledge, all of your skills as a presenter.
But I have so many things I want to talk to you about because your bio is fucking insane. It's literally like I can't even. At this point, I've interviewed like a lot of pretty impressive people, like Grammy nominated, whatever. And your bio is like I truly was. I had to read it out loud to my mates because I was like, this is the most impressive bio I've ever received. There's so many things I want to talk to you about, and it's just wow, you're so impressive. I would like to talk about music education. I'm not going to touch on that in the interview, so I just want to know your thoughts on that and how that is in the U.S.
I think it's completely broken, to be honest with you. I think it should be considered sort of a life skill, in my opinion, because music and I've struggled to find the value of it, right? Like if you're talking to an accountant or an architect, it's like, what is music good for? And the best argument I've come up with is it is a fertile place where you can make mistakes and you can experiment and you can learn about taking risks. You can learn about giving and receiving feedback. You can learn about all these like intangible social skills that a lot of people just think, oh, you're making the product, which is a beat or a song. In my opinion, it's a lot of the gaps in our humanity that we have in this country come from seeing the arts as a commodity, right? Not as this almost like a sense that we have inside of us that we can commune with and we can communicate with others through. And that to me is what I'm trying to do with music education, is take it away from the proficiency and the status of conservatory, which is fine, but I want to democratize it so that everybody has access to it, because we all enjoy music. Wouldn't it be great if everybody understood it better and knew how to talk about it and with a little bit more of a like informed vocabulary? And I also think of back in the day when like somebody would play the piano in the 1800s and everybody would sit around and watch them and enjoy that, and how much we're missing out on just having the patience and the wisdom to enjoy a moment like that.
Totally. And that's you brought up so many interesting points. And I think that in the U.S., it seems like people are a lot quicker to understand why sports might be necessary. Like they don't assume that their child is going to go and play professional sports, but like they're like, it tells you it teaches you how to work hard, and teaches you how to play in a team, and it teaches you how to like, be a good teammate and a team player, and like all these important things that people just like culturally kind of accept. But like being in a band, like playing in band is the same thing. Like it taught me how to work really hard and how to practice things. I'd have to go home and practice after school. It taught me how to like play in a band and how to like, get my volume right and be a good like teammate, and when to step up for my solo, and when to, it's like all those same skill sets that I feel like aren't as, I don't know, eagerly talked about.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
It's interesting how I think a lot of countries have approached it the same way. We sometimes talk about the US because it's where we're currently living, but I think it's like that in a lot of parts of the world where people see like medicine or law or something as a viable way to like grow your education and create more opportunities for yourself. And sadly, music doesn't get thrown in that pile. But something that I always like to advise modern music educators is that you have to sneak in the math, you have to sneak in the physics, you have to sneak in the science, because if you think about like modular synthesis, the first synthesizers were made out of tools that were used to study nature. So like the same vocabulary that we use to make synthesizers and sounds is the same vocabulary that people use to study the cosmos. So I think just throwing that in there and showing people, hey, you're going to learn about frequencies. I personally didn't have a clear understanding of fractions until I started to use subdivisions and like pattern making in MIDI. And all of a sudden, you start seeing all of these potential opportunities to showcase music and use music as a platform to just educate people in the broadest sense.
That is amazing. That is such a cool, I mean, talking about the cosmos when you're talking about, I mean, and not in like a heady way, but in like a just like scientific tool kind of way is so cool. I hope that is, I hope we start changing that in education. Yeah, I see so many obvious, tangible skills that are developed by just learning how to make music, just like learning math. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always wonder if it's easier to change the educational system or to do what you're doing with Femme House and start a completely different movement and take it upon yourself. And I think a lot of times we wait until an institution makes the change happen, and that's almost impossible, where we can just step up and provide it to a small community, and then that community keeps growing and people are inspired by that movement.
Alberto, finger snaps. Yes. Who are your female influences and mentors?
Oh, wow. That's actually getting ready for the podcast. I was sort of reflecting on that. And it goes all the way back to my family. I was raised by, I always say I had like 10 mothers. My mom was always present, but so were my 2 grandmothers, and so were my dad's sisters and my mom's sisters. And I blame my mom's sisters because they were closer to my age. They were younger. They were about 8 to 10 years apart from me. And they had all these posters, and it was like 80s pop all over their walls. And they would record, it was beta tapes back then. So they would record tapes of music videos. And I think the excitement, because I was around them all the time. They were just like my sisters and my babysitters. I think being around that excitement for music around them really instilled this passion or this obsession with trying to figure it out and trying to understand what it was all about. And I would say those were my earliest influences, would have to come from my family. But in the Ableton and music world, I always need to mention Laura Escudé, because she's been an inspiration
Absolutely.
and somewhat of a mentor to me and thousands of other people at this point. She's just amazing. And I guess some other names in the Ableton community would be Madeline Bloom. She's another amazing Ableton certified trainer that's done a lot for the community. Somebody that we've both worked with is Danielle Thwaites,
Yes.
works with Deza. She is amazing. I'm not the only person that says this. Every time I share my experience with her of like just being in awe of her talent, everybody seems to agree. So it's
Couldn't
good to
agree
know
more.
that I'm not wrong about that.
Yeah.
And then just some other
Absolutely.
amazing Ableton female producers like Katie Watson, Marie Sullivan, Sarah Landry is another Austin-based producer. I don't know if you've gotten to interact with her. She's
I
super
haven't, but
talented.
I keep hearing her name. I really need to reach out. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being a guest on Femme House Radio. I mean, from your improv work to your work with Planned Parenthood to your community building and educational work, you are truly an inspiration. I like you as a friend and as a human and all your humanitarian work you do. So thank you so much for being a guest on Femme House Radio.
Thanks for having me, LP.
This is LP Giobbi.
Listen up, children.
You are listening to Femme House Radio
I said listen up, children.
on Diplo's Revolution, Sirius XM.
A wonderful night is made as much by the dancers as the music. Guided as much by the spirit of joy in the room as by the hand which reaches for the next record. Each of us has a role in tonight's experience. We all play in the band. I said we all play in the band.
This is LP Giobbi, and I founded Femme House, a 501c3 foundation and educational platform that teaches the technical areas of music making for women, non-binary, trans, and other marginalized gender identities. Every week, I will be interviewing and spotlighting women in music while bringing you the best dance tunes from around the world.